Good morning. This is the day the Lord has made. I want to rejoice with you this morning on things God did with us. Now I'm in Harrisonburg. I talked about Dr. Farrer, Chuck Farrer, who was a professor at theology at ORU University in Tulsa, who through Art Carlson became a friend, and that in the church that he was part of in Tulsa, we got to know him. They had a program during the summer called Summer Training Program, and a couple of our guys went out the first summer, and I think some other people went another time. Pretty sure they did. And we thought, maybe we should do that. We had a lot of people in their young, early 20s who was zealous, wanted to serve the Lord, and were very serious. And we thought, well, why don't we have our own summer training program? In scriptures in Timothy, he tells them in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 2, I think, the things that you've heard from me in the presence of many witnesses, entrust these to faithful men and women who will be able to teach others also. And we had these kind of young people in our church who we knew were called and were desirous to serve the Lord. We thought, how can we help train them even further? Let's do an STP. So we rented dormitories at Eastern Mennonite High School, and I don't know how many people. It was probably 25, maybe 30 people in their 20s and early 30s. All, I think, were single. And the guys are in one dorm, girls in another. And they worked during the day, but they would come back at night, have dinner together, and during the week we had small groups, we had Bible studies, we had worship services, we had speakers come in. Dr. Farrer came in and spoke. John Mazzano came over. I think Dan Wolf, Gary Burgle, Merle Allender, so they got good teaching. We even did things like showed them. They were taught how to set up a table for a fancy meal. They were each given jobs from buying groceries to cooking to cleaning, and they just worked together. In Timothy, a lot of these thoughts came from 1st and 2nd Timothy, but in 1 Timothy 3:15 said that you may know how you ought, or how one ought to behave in the household of God, and living together and working together. These kids young people were desiring to to pursue righteousness, faith, love, peace, and to be with those who also were doing the same thing. They were young, but like in 1 Timothy 4:12, it said, let no one despise you for your youth, but set believers an example in speech, conduct, love, faith, and purity. And they did. And among this group, although they were young then, leaders have come from it. In fact, Merle Shank was there. He's now the senior pastor at Grace Covenant Church in Harrisonburg. I can't even remember all the people. In fact, I hope those of you that are listening were there or know who was there. Send me a little note or something, however you do it. But it was an opportunity to train young people. We only did it for 1 year. I don't know why. We never did it again. But out of that group came many strong leaders. Now, that was not their only training. They grew many other ways, of course, but one of the obligations of the church is to to look out for the strong young people and give them opportunities to invest in them, to share what we've learned. I wasn't old then. I probably was in my 40s, but I'd been blessed in many ways. And so I was sharing what I knew, and then we brought in people who were also equipped and able to invest. Investing in young people is the key for the next generation of the gospel going forth. And so it was a great time. I look back on it, and again, it was just one of those where one connection led to another. And so this connection with Dr. Farah helped bring this about. In addition, Dr. Farah had a couple other encounters in my life. One was with the group called Maranatha. Maranatha was a strong college ministry all over the United States, maybe even other countries, and but they were pretty zealous and a little bit possessive of their people, and they had been branded by Christianity Today as a cult. So some of the theology was a little mixed up. In addition, there were some of the practices, but the theology part, Christianity was concerned about. And somehow it was recommended to them that Dr. Farah meet with them and help them develop a comprehensive and correct statement of faith and doctrine for their organization. So somehow it happened during a conference in Montreat. Becky and I were there. Dr. Farah came in to meet with Bob Warner and his group. And so Dr. Farah was going to meet there in the hotel or conference center, and he asked me to go with him. So I went with him, and we knocked on the door, and Bob Warner came to the door, and he said, who's this guy? And Dr. Farah said, he's my friend Dick Blackwell, and he's with me. And Bob said, I don't want him here during this discussion. And Dr. Farah said, well, then I'm not coming. That we need him. And so I was there during this long session where Dr. Farah went over things with him. And every now and then he would turn to me and said, that seems right, doesn't it, Dick? I said, yes, sir. And Bob Warner, Maranatha had probably led hundreds to the Lord. And I don't know how much Dr. Farah helped, because Maranatha had problems later. It was more in their practice than what they actually believed. There were good people who loved the Lord, but they were very zealous and very actually possessive. There many good people came out of that organization, but that was the case when Dr. Farah thought more highly of me than I did myself. And then another case with Dr. Farrer, well, there was a retreat in St. Louis, and Dr. Farrer asked me to come, and Jamie Buckingham was the one pretty much putting it on, and I already knew Jamie from having gone with him to Israel. But Jamie said, not to be ugly, but Dick's ministry is not as big and important as the others that were being invited. And he's younger, and Jamie didn't think I should come. Dr. Farrer insisted, almost to the point that he wouldn't come if I didn't come. So Jamie relented.